Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 13 and 14. As is the norm with all my videos, I won't be holding back on any spoilers, so please do keep that in mind. Apologies that it's taken me so long to get this video out. As some of you may know by now, I had surgery about 7 weeks ago, I believe now, and recovery has been harder than I thought it would be. I did come back about 2-3 weeks ago and start recording again. And, I did briefly return to the channel because I felt okay then, but since then it's been tough. I've been in a lot of pain and just had other problems from the surgery, so it's not gone as well as I thought it would go, but I'll probably do another video explaining everything, like just a separate video explaining what's been going on and why I've been absent. But all I want to say is that, thank you for your patience during what has been a difficult time for me, and I will be trying to put out my review of episode 15 and 16 as soon as this one is done, literally like the day after, and then I'm going to try and, catch up with Fear and review the new episode of Fear, and then we'll be back on track. So, yeah, thank you for your patience during what's been a difficult time, and like I said, maybe I'll explain more in a separate video, but for now, let's begin. Episode 13 really played with my expectations, and it did so in a good way, because during the first 10 or so minutes of this episode, I'll admit I was a bit worried, because it turns out that this episode is about Gabe and Aaron as they go to visit this new community, of, religious folk, as I believe Toby says, who's this new character. I'll talk about it in a bit later. And, immediately I got flashbacks to the Reaper story arc, because like the Reapers, this new community, the Riverbend, I believe they're called, were described as another group of religious people, and they're another, made-for-TV group, a group which aren't in the comics, and we know that when The Walking Dead deviates from the source material, it doesn't have the best track record. It usually doesn't end up being very good. So, during the first 10 minutes or so of this episode, I was thinking, oh boy, are we going to have to deal with another really lame original for TV group who are basically just here as filler, as padding, to fill out the final season of the show. And I was really worried about how things were going to turn out, but it turns out I had no need to be worried, because this is a fantastic episode, and this group are far more interesting than the Reapers, and they do something really interesting with them as well. The writers do a good job with them. This episode takes place over the course of a week, I believe, and if you're familiar with any of my rants on The World Beyond and Fear the Walking Dead, you'll know that I often criticize those shows for, using unnecessary flashbacks and jumping back and forward in time, and, they just do it to kind of overcomplicate things without there being a real need and a purpose to it, I believe, anyway. But this episode, it manages its multiple characters, and it manages, it skips in time and its flashbacks very well, because it all comes together to build up this narrative that actually has some payoff. So I have no problems with it at all. In fact, I think it works very well in this episode. There's a lot of moments in this episode where something happens and it doesn't really quite make sense until you then see it happen from a different character's perspective, and we see, what happened and what led to that point. So, for example, there's a moment where Gabe is arrested by Toby, because I think he punches Toby in the face, and then Gabe has him kind of arrested by the Commonwealth soldiers, and he's there in handcuffs with like 2 of them guarding him. And in the next scene we see of Gabe is like the Commonwealth soldiers are dead. Well, we don't see Gabe. The Commonwealth soldiers are dead, and he's nowhere to be seen. So it looks like he's escaped. And when I saw that, I was just thinking to myself, how the hell did he escape? Like, he was handcuffed. There were 2 soldiers next to him. How did this dude escape? But then what happens is that we then see the scene take place from Negan's point of view, and we see how Negan got to this location. It goes back a bit, and then we see, him rescuing Gabe, and it does that a lot, where it has these multiple characters, and, it kind of ties them all together, and it's really nice. It works really well. I mean, admittedly, there are some moments where you do have to kind of suspend your disbelief a bit. There's many moments where a character is in danger, and then, it'd be like, oh, here, enter stage left Negan to save the day, enter this character to save the day in just the nick of time. There are a lot of moments like that, but I mean, that happens in The Walking Dead all the time, I suppose. But yeah, you do have to kind of suspend your disbelief a bit, but to be honest, I didn't really care, because I like the fact that it brought all these characters together, under this one story, because The Walking Dead in the past has been, in my opinion, kind of too fractured, where you'll watch an episode and it's only about one character or one group, and then you watch another character and you don't see them interact much, and I don't care that it's a bit contrived how these characters got together. I just want to see them together. I liked it. Anyway, let's talk about the episode itself in a bit more detail. So the episode begins with this random dude appearing at the hilltop on a horse, and he's been shot and where he's dying. And Lydia and Elijah come to his aid, and he has a map, and I think he says, oh, they need help or something like that, and he passes away. And what happens next is that Elijah and Lydia ask Maggie to help this dude, but, initially Maggie is reluctant, but then she gives in, and she goes to drive them to the location that is on his map. And honestly, I don't like how easy Maggie gave into this, because, it wasn't long ago that she went on this journey to Meridian, and, all her friends, her new friends, all ended up dying, apart from Elijah. And you'd think she'd be a bit more cautious about, jumping head first, going gung-ho into going to this random location. I mean, this random dude turns up and he's like, oh, I need help, come to this location. First Maggie's like, nope, we're not doing that. Then Elijah and Lydia are like, oh, please, Maggie. And she's like, yep, okay. Like, it should have been harder to convince her, considering what she's been through. She's had all these people die. She shouldn't be wanting to go on these wild, goose hunts anymore. Goose hunt, is that the right word? Goose hunt, goose chase? I don't know. But anyway, she shouldn't be wanting to do this. She should be a bit more reserved and cautious. And, should, in my opinion, it should have happened. What should have happened is that she should have just said, look, I'm not going. I don't think you should go. But if you want to go, I'm not going to stop you. So what happens is that Lydia and, Elijah end up going instead. I don't think it made sense, after considering what her character has been through, for her to leave the hilltop, because this random dude turns up. I didn't like that. That was one of the weakest aspects of the episode for me. And I also didn't like the green screen in the car when she was driving Lydia and Elijah. That was just fucking terrible. That was awful. I mean, like The Walking Dead, most of the show's filmed in the bloody woods. So why didn't they just have a car drive on the road in the woods or through the woods? Why they now use the car, in a studio, I presume, with green screen background? I don't get it. They're filming on location most of the time in wooded areas. Just fucking drive through it. Why are you using this cheap green screen? It looks horrible. It looks really horrible. Anyway, Maggie brings the car to a stop when she sees some dead Commonwealth soldiers in the road ahead, and she also sees Aaron running towards her in the distance. And then the show kind of switches its focus, and it goes a week in the past. We go back a week as we learn, why Aaron got to that location. And the episode then centers its attention on Aaron and Gabe as they go to this new community called the Riverbend, which is, the religious folk, as I mentioned at the start of the episode, who live in like this tower block. And they go there with this dude called Toby, who works from the Commonwealth, and he's some kind of like immigration officer, or that's his job anyway, something like that, I believe. And I mean, immediately I didn't like this guy. He just comes off as an absolute moron. He's like this really excitable man-child, just the way he talks, and yeah, he's so annoying. It turns out, however, that Toby's portrayal as an idiot, in the early parts of the episode at least, is yet another example of this episode's attempts at misdirection, because it turns out that he's not a fool at all. Because when he entered the Riverbend alongside Jesse, Gabe and Aaron, and Jesse is the dude who rides on a horse at the hilltop at the start of the episode, and I'll mention how that all ties together later on. I just thought this guy was an absolute idiot, an absolute buffoon, and I didn't expect him to do what he does, and I didn't expect him, to have a plan all along. So, yeah, well done for the episode. Well done to the writers, because I didn't see that coming, and it was a cool twist. And also, going off topic a bit now, I've just started watching Ozark, I've nearly finished the third season of Ozark. I've kind of binged it lately. And this dude who plays Toby is in the first 2 seasons. And I watched Ozark after I watched this episode, and I think maybe if I had watched Ozark first, based on his character in that show, maybe I'd have thought that this dude was actually up to something in The Walking Dead, but because I've never seen this guy before, I just assumed he was an idiot. But he kind of plays a similar slimy character in Ozark, so maybe if I'd watched Ozark first, I would have suspected him a bit, but as it turns out, I knew nothing about this guy. I haven't seen him in anything before, so I just thought this guy was a moron from the Commonwealth, like Sebastian, but it turns out he's actually more clever than I thought he was. So Toby and the boys enter the Riverbend, and they don't look like a particularly nice bunch. They look very hostile. Then they lead them to this room where their boss is a dude named Ian, who's got like skulls on his shelf, like the governor back in season 3 and 4. And basically this Ian is not a trusting type. He accuses these people of being like wolves in sheep's clothing, and he mentions how he's had like rapists and cannibals coming to his place before. And basically what Aaron and Gabe are there to do is to try and get them to join the Commonwealth and, to join their network and to help them. That's their mission. And this dude, Ian, does not want that at all. So yeah, Ian loses it, and he pulls a gun out on Toby. And I think he says something like, oh, how dumb would I have to be to let you leave when you know my location, but I don't know yours. And Toby replies by going, very dumb, which I don't know is the best thing to do when someone's got a gun at your head, to say, yeah, you'd be very dumb to do this. Very, very dumb. You should kill us. It'd be very dumb to let us go. I don't know. That kind of seemed like a stupid response from Toby, in my opinion. But anyway, what happens is that Aaron and Gabe come to the rescue. They talk this dude down. And they kind of play good cop, bad cop. And, I love the pairing of these two. I think they're both fantastic characters. Two of my favourite characters left on the show. Aaron tries to go down the nice route where he's like, look, we can work this out. It doesn't have to be this way. And then Gabe's just like, oh, your place is a shithole. He's like, your place is a shithole. Your place is a fucking dump. We're going to kill you all if you don't let us go. And he doesn't care. The dude he doesn't mince his words, Gabe anymore. I think he's hilarious, and yeah, I love that scene. Anyway, what happens is that Ian gives in, and he's like, yep, okay, you can go home as long as you never come here again. You promise never to come here again. We don't want nothing to do with the Commonwealth. Go away and never come back. And at that point, I'm thinking, well, there you go. Danger averted. Good job, guys. You've sorted it out. Well done. But then what happens is that Toby pulls out a gun and shoots him. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? Where did this come from? Well, it's not long before we find out why this happened, because The Walking Dead then gives us a scene which jumps back another week in time, I believe, and we see a conversation play out between Hornsby and Toby. And it turns out that Hornsby has hired Toby to kill this dude, Ian, because he believes that Ian is the one who stole the Commonwealth's weapons. And Toby kind of just says to him, why can't we send 100 soldiers there just to wipe him out? At which point Hornsby says, well, Pamela would notice that. I can't send in a whole team, to this location, because then she'd be like, hang on, what the hell are you doing? But if we send you there with Gabe and Aaron under the pretense that you're going to help these guys and then you take him out, no one's going to know. So, yeah, it's very clever. And, it shows, again, what a master manipulator Hornsby is. So this is all good stuff, but there is kind of a weird scene, like a weird moment during this scene that stood out to me where Toby puts his finger in Hornsby's alcoholic drink, his drink, licks his finger, and he's like, are you tired of living? And we do find out later on that Toby's been teetotal for 4 years, and he does do this again, I believe, in episode 14, so I guess maybe this is just his way of getting a taste of the alcohol without drinking it, without going down that route again. Maybe, I don't know if he's an alcoholic in the past, whatever, but it just came off as really weird because he kind of done it in a flirtatious way. He did it and then licked his finger are you tired of living? And I was like, well, what the fuck? Why are you doing this flirty? Are you tired of living is not a flirtatious question. It's just bizarre. I can't put my finger on it. I was like, what is going on? What the fuck is happening? So we then jump back to the present, and Toby is asking this dude, Ian, where their weapons are. Well, why did you steal the weapons? What's going on? Ian says he doesn't know. And then Toby kills him. And then it's really bizarre scene of him, taunting him when he's dead, grabbing his face and, trying to, doing a funny voice and mocking him whilst he's dead, which is, yeah, bizarre, and just shows that this Toby dude is an absolute psychopath. So a couple of things happen after this moment in the episode, which kind of ties everything together and, goes back to the start of the episode. So what happens is that Jesse runs away. I believe Ian shoots him whilst he's running. And not Ian, sorry. Toby shoots him because Jesse doesn't like what's going on, doesn't like what's happening. Toby shoots him. Jesse runs away. He encounters Negan. And he says to Negan, he's like, oh, you need to help me. There's this dude here with the metal arm and the priest are in trouble. And Negan's like, oh, shit, that's Gabe and Aaron. Go to Hilltop. Here's the directions for Hilltop. Go to Hilltop and tell them to, tell Maggie to get help, basically. Come the end of the episode, Negan arrives on the scene to save Gabe, and then Maggie arrives with Elijah and Lydia, and I don't think they come into contact with anyone in this episode, but they're there in the building, about to kind of launch their rescue attempt. And it looks like Negan might be a changed man, because it turns out that Negan is actually part of the Riverbend, and, I know these are famous last words saying that Negan's changed, but the fact that he's kind of integrated into this society, this new group, without immediately trying to take over or, without pissing anyone off, and seems to be living there peacefully and getting on with everyone, shows maybe he has changed and he's had a fresh start. So, I don't know. You have to let me know what you think. But, yeah, maybe Negan is different now. The episode ends with Toby rounding up those he can find from the riverbend in the in the riverbend. Very bad sentence, but he's rounding up the people of this group and taking them to the roof and basically torturing them, asking them where the weapons are. They don't know, and he's throwing them off the roof to their death. And he says to the rest of the Commonwealth soldiers, right, let's search the place, for everyone else, and let's basically kill all of them. And that's when the episode ends. I really didn't want it to end because, yeah, it was a really exciting episode. It tied a lot of things together. It really kind of smashed my expectations because I was thinking this is going to be an episode about a really crap group, a group that are just there to waste time, to be another roadblock, just to kind of drag out the story. But it's not that case at all because this group, obviously the Riverbend were introduced to, one, bring back Negan and bring back past characters, establish new characters, and also, to develop the Commonwealth storyline, and to show how evil the Commonwealth are, to develop Hornsby some more. And it's worthwhile, it's a worthwhile kind of detour for our characters to go to this location. It's not padding, it adds to the story. And yeah, it smashed my expectations. I thought this episode was going to be pretty bad, but it turns out that is really fantastic. It's a really good episode, so I really enjoyed it. So yeah, let's now carry on and let's talk about episode 14. Episode 14 focuses on two different storylines. The first concerning Rosita and Daryl as they go to rob some money from an abandoned house on behalf of Sebastian, and the other storyline concludes what's going on at the Riverbend. I'm going to start by talking about Rosita and Daryl first. So the episode begins with them in what looks like, it looks like a police station, but it's their kind of office space where I guess they go before the start of their day, before they go do, their soldier stuff. And it's just really bizarre, seeing an office location in The Walking Dead, and especially seeing Daryl in an office, working in an office, having his own desk is just, yeah, not what I don't know. If you showed me Daryl in season 1, could I ever visualize him working, in an office space? No. So yeah, it's taken some, getting used to. It's also weird just seeing an office in general because I haven't seen my own office in like 2-3 years, since COVID. I used to work in an office, but now we work at home and the boss has said we're never going back in the office because it's cheaper for them, for us all to work at home. So yeah, I haven't even seen my desk in years. And, I haven't seen the people in years, I actually used to go into a place where I used to see people. I used to talk to people on a daily basis. I actually used to have human interaction, whereas now I just kind of sit in this chair and just stare out the window, I just look at the parking lot below me, just stare at people all day. Just staring. That's my life now. Anyway, back to the review. So Rosita and Daryl are about to leave for their day when Sebastian catches them going out the door, and basically Sebastian is talking to these other two soldiers and he's trying to big himself up and he's saying, oh yeah, I can handle myself, I can take out all these walkers. And as Daryl passes him, he says, oh Daryl, you've seen me with the walkers, why don't you tell these guys about how great I am? And honestly, I thought Daryl was just going to say, yeah, Sebastian's amazing, because Daryl has already kind of sucked up to this guy already. He handed over the dude whose name I forget, the dude who was attacking Max, and he's basically done what this dude asks. And I just thought, well, Daryl wants an easy life, and he's just going to say, yeah, Sebastian's great, just so he doesn't bother him. But instead, what Daryl does is like he claps sarcastically, and he's like, oh yeah, you're really good, like when Wayne Rooney used to play for Man United in his early days, and he'd always clap the ref and end up getting sent off because he was a bloody idiot, when he tackled someone. I'm sure he did that a few times, got sent off for clapping the ref after he got carded. But anyway, yeah, so Daryl does that, and I thought it was hilarious. I did think it was a bit silly because I was just kind of thinking, oh no, Daryl, you should have just bit your tongue. There was no need for that because Sebastian's going to fucking do something to get you back now. And lo and behold, almost immediately after Rosita and Daryl exit the station, they're reassigned elsewhere, and that's at the point that when Sebastian says to them, oh, you need to go into this house for me and steal this money. So I'm not sure if Sebastian, had already planned out for them to do that, if they were already going to do that anyway, or if, he was pissed off with Daryl making fun of him, and he was like, right, I'm going to punish them by making them go into this, walker-infested house to get some money. So Sebastian says that he needs money because Pamela's cut him off from all her money, and we did see that in a previous episode. We did see Pamela say to Max, oh, stop payments to my son or something like that. And it's just bizarre seeing Daryl and Rosita risk their life for money Because, up until now, the money on The Walking Dead, has been, worthless, really. They've not needed money. I mean, how much money do you think these characters have come across in whatever it's been, the 10 years since the apocalypse, however long it's been? People are going to hate me in the comments because I got it wrong, but whatever. How long do you think, how much money have they come across? I'm sure they've raided houses where they've looked for supplies and they probably found money in drawers or under beds or in safes or whatever, but they've never taken it because it hasn't, been worth anything. But now here they are in a situation where money is worth something. And can you just imagine, I know hindsight is a beautiful thing, but can you imagine, if they rocked up to the Commonwealth with bags full of money, with suitcases full of money, how much easier their life would have been. But, the world went to shit. They didn't know money was going to be worth anything. So, food and supplies were more important to them. So, yeah, I just thought that was interesting, even if you don't. So, sorry for boring everyone with that little kind of tangent about money. Let's carry on. Daryl and Rosita do initially reject his mission, at which point Sebastian mentions Daryl's kids, or Daryl's kids being Judith and Rick Jr. who's not Rick, is it Rick? Yeah, it is RJ, Rick Jr. who he's looking after, and Sebastian then says to Daryl, look, I wasn't threatening your kids, I was just saying I could make their life easier. And eventually the two do decide to go in, and they go through this walker-infested gardens into the house. And then when they get into the house, they find this lady who is trapped behind this door. And it turns out that she had been sent by Sebastian previously to go and reclaim the money, but she couldn't get out. She got stuck in this, this panic room, whatever the hell it is. She got stuck in there, and the rest of her team who went with her ended up dying. So obviously, this isn't the first time that Sebastian has done this. He's been sending people to their deaths, many times already to try and reclaim this money. And obviously, it just shows to him that money is more important than people's lives. He doesn't care who dies as long as he gets his money. Daryl goes downstairs to fix the generator whilst Rosita stays on the other side of the store with the lady, I guess, to comfort her. And I did find that kind of annoying, that I felt like kind of Rosita got shafted a bit, because basically Daryl gets to do the cool stuff. He gets to go downstairs and fight the walkers, whereas Rosita's like, I'm just going to stay here next to this door and not do anything. I mean, it's not like the lady in the other room was going anywhere. She wasn't in danger. She'd been stuck in the room for a while. She's just going to have to stay in there. I don't know why Rosita just couldn't go downstairs with Daryl and clear the walkers. She's more than capable. And it just kind of felt, I felt bad for her. Because it's kind of like, right, you've got to stay here, Rosita, do the boring stuff. Stand and look at a door whilst Daryl goes downstairs and does all the cool stuff. So, I didn't really like that. To cut a long story short, Daryl fixes the generator. The door opens. Daryl is able to get the money out of a safe, but it triggers an alarm, which obviously draws walkers to the house. And then what happens is that, walkers break in, they surround the place, but the characters are saved by Mercer and Carol, I believe, who appear at just the nick of time. And then the characters all decide that they're going to cover themselves in guts to escape the garden and to get back and to get out of the place. And surprise, surprise, April, the lady behind the door, dies. And I think we all knew from the get-go she was going to die. She was just a random red shirt who was just introduced, She had no ties. The rest of her friends were dead. Of course, they were just going to kill her off. So, she dies. And, the characters all make it back to safety. Daryl and Rosita handle the money over to the two Commonwealth soldiers who Sebastian was talking to at the start of the episode, at which point Mercer shoots them both in the head, which I did not expect because, Mercer has all been about, following the rules. And, of course, we know, just hit the table, excuse me, of course we know that Mercer isn't happy with things at the Commonwealth and he hates Sebastian. That much is obvious. We all know that. But Mercer just wants an easy life. He wants a good life for him and his family. He doesn't want to rock the boat. So I didn't expect him to shoot these two. But I guess Mercer is now getting to his breaking point. He's seen Sebastian kill these people, get people killed for stupid reasons. And he's pissed. And I think it's only a matter of time before Mercer snaps. Anyway, Rosita and Daryl make it back to their, their office space and they hand the money over to Sebastian. And Sebastian asks Mercer what happened to the two soldiers he was talking to previously at the start of the episode. And Mercer says, they didn't make it. And Sebastian doesn't even say anything. He doesn't even flinch. He could at least say, that's a shame. I'm really sorry. But instead he just starts looking at the money and celebrating. He does not give a fuck. He does not care that these people died. They're all expendable to him. Yeah, the dude just values money over everything else. He doesn't care. But anyway, let's move on to what is happening at the Riverbend as we catch up with Negan and Maggie and Lydia and everyone else. And it turns out that Negan is now married. Negan is married. And I picked up some, flirtatious tones between him and Annie in episode 13. But I didn't expect them two to be married. and her to be pregnant with his kid. Bloody hell, Negan doesn't waste any time, does he? This has got to suck for Maggie. This has really got to suck for Maggie. You know, seeing the dude who killed your husband, happily married, and about to, you know, give birth and, you know, about to have a family unit when your husband is dead. This has really got to suck, you know. I mean, Negan, you really need to keep Maggie away from your wife. Oh dear, too late. Maggie's gone off with Annie on her own. I think you might be in trouble here, Negan. So yeah, Maggie and Annie go off on their own, you know, in the Riverbend, go off as a pair. And I was expecting kind of like a cliche scene here. I was expecting, you know, Maggie to say to Annie, oh, you don't know what your husband is like. You know, your husband's done this. And for Annie to be like, oh, it's not true. And, you know, and then for Maggie to talk some more. And then Annie eventually comes to realise what Negan's really like. And then she confronts. I was expecting it to go down that route. You know, I was expecting it to be a very cliche scene where, you know, cliche kind of set up where, you know, Negan's been lying and now the truth is coming out. So what does happen is that Maggie tells Annie about what Negan's like, and she already knows. She's like, yep, I know, he's told me. He's told me he's killed your husband. I know about it. Which, you know, surprised me. I didn't expect, like, you know, Negan to lead with that. You know, I didn't expect Negan to be, you know, seeing this new girl and being like, hey, you know, I really like you. Do you want to date me? By the way, I bashed a dude's head in. I bashed his head in with a baseball bat. Want to go on a date with me? Like, I didn't expect him to be, you know, upfront about it. But I'm glad. I'm glad they didn't go down the cliche route of Negan keeping a secret, you know. And I also think going back to what I said previously when I was talking about episode 13, maybe this does kind of show that Negan's changed because he's leading with the truth. You know, he's been straight with Annie from the start. He hasn't tried to lie to her. I mean, we saw in the flashbacks, you know, in the Here's Negan episode, that he even lied to Lucille, a lady he loved. But here he's with another girl who he loves, and he's been, you know, he's learned his lesson. He's been truthful with her from the start. He hasn't built her, you know, their relationship on a foundation of lies because, you know, it's never gonna work. And yeah, I mean, it shows kind of a maturity, if you will, and maybe Negan has changed. I'm glad. You know, I'm glad he didn't go down the cliche route of him lying. I didn't expect this, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It turns out that Herschel was also at the Riverbend after doing a call and jumping in one of their trucks. I think he jumped in the truck from the hilltop to sneak there. And yeah, they find that he's there when Maggie is off with Annie. So that means that Negan now has to look after him. And this is a very kind of uncomfortable scene to watch of, you know, Herschel in the same room as the dude who killed his dad. Very uncomfortable. In Negan's defense, he does show some emotion in this scene, and you know, you could almost say he's being remorseful, but he still doesn't actually come out and say, I'm sorry. You know, I still think that would make a big difference. I know Negan says, oh, it doesn't matter, I can't change things, blah, 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 which, you know, is true, of course. It's not going to bring Glenn back, but I still think just for, you know, out of respect, out of, you know, human decency, he should still say, look, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry for what I did to your father. You didn't deserve that. I'm sorry. You know, instead of just saying, oh, it won't matter. It won't matter, so I'm not going to do it. You know, how does he know that won't give Herschel some kind of closure? It might do. You know, it might not, but I think you should still try it. I still think a decent human being would still, you know, attempt to apologise even when they knew it wouldn't make a difference. Herschel does pull a gun out on Negan, and I like the fact that the only reason that Herschel didn't shoot Negan was because Negan said to him, look, hey, kid, if you shoot me, it's going to alert the Commonwealth to where we are, and they're all going to kill us. So I like that, you know, that was the only reason that basically Herschel spared him. And then Negan says something to him like, oh, come find me when you're older, kid, and we'll hash this out and sort this out, which, you know, could be taken as some kind of foreshadowing. So maybe he's going to kill Negan in the future. Maybe there's going to be a big time skip at the end of the show where he kills Negan. But then again, if Negan is getting a spin-off show with Maggie, I don't really think that's going to happen. I mean, that's not to say that Negan couldn't die in the future, and obviously the spin-off show is set before he dies, but I don't know. I still don't think anything's really going to come from that. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but yeah, I still don't think Negan's going to die. Anyway, Toby is still on the hunt for the survivors, and they're all like behind this secret compartment in the wall in this room, and he's about to find them when Aaron and Gabe like go sprinting past him and basically distract him, and he then follows them up to the roof. And that was kind of bizarre because Maggie says, "Oh, I've got a plan. You know, I've got a plan how to solve this and, you know, take this dude down." And basically her plan just consists of getting Aaron and Gabe to run to the roof. Like, I get it. Like, they run to the roof, and then obviously Elijah's waiting as well, and they kind of, they kind of surprise them. But at the same time, it seems a bit silly. Like, right, our grand plan is to get Aaron and Gabe to run past them and lead them to the roof. Like, who's to say that the Commonwealth just didn't shoot them when they ran past? They could have just shot them. They couldn't have even... They might not have even made it to the roof. It just seems like a really stupid plan. I don't know. It seemed... I like the episode, but it feels like the writers didn't know how to conclude it. They didn't know how to get Toby in a situation where he's back on the roof, where where he ends up, being killed, basically. So they were like, oh, let's just have someone run past. And he gives chase. Yeah, great plan. Great plan, guys. The protagonist killed the Commonwealth soldiers on the roof, and then Aaron shoots Toby, and he falls off the roof. And it's a pretty big fall, but somehow he doesn't die. And his death is horrific. Like, it's horrific in not a gratuitous way, which I think is, is a good choice on behalf of The Walking Dead, because, The Walking Dead does sometimes go over the top with showing you blood and guts. And I do think, I'm not, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I'm not adverse to seeing, this kind of stuff play out on TV. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, too much violence. It doesn't really bother me. But at the same time, I do sometimes think that it's not as scary when you're showing, just someone being ripped apart by walkers. Like, you can do it every once and now, every now and then. But I do think The Walking Dead kind of does it too much. And, I think this death actually managed to be more creepy and more scary, even though we don't see, him getting ripped to pieces. We just kind of see the walkers climb on top of him because, this is a dude where, he's on the floor paralyzed, broken all his bones, and he can't move. And he's seeing the walkers come towards him and he can't do anything. He knows he's going to die. And that must have been horrific, knowing that you can't do anything and just seeing them come to get you and you're stuck. And I'm glad that The Walking Dead didn't feel the need to go over the top and show, him being ripped apart, because I feel that scene was very creepy and what's the word I'm looking for? Just uncomfortable, and it didn't need, him getting his face ripped open to make it feel more uncomfortable is a point I'm trying to make. I think I think they did a good job, I think that for once The Walking Dead kind of held back on all the guts and gore, and I think it worked. The episode ends with Carol going to see Hornsby and kind of confronting him about what Sebastian's been up to. She says that, Sebastian's been sending people to this house to get money, and it's ended up with people dying. And, Hornsby doesn't even bat an eyelid. He doesn't say, oh my God, these poor people, oh, Sebastian. He's just like, well, did they get the money? Did they get the money? That's literally what he says. He doesn't care. He does not care that these people died at all. He does not give a shit. He's just like, right, did they get the money? Yes, they did. Good. He doesn't care. He does not give a shit. Does not care one bit that Sebastian has been taking advantage of these people, because, April said in episode 13 that the people who Sebastian got to do this mission previously were people who were in debt. And he said, like, look, you do this and I'll clear your debts and stuff. And, these people were vulnerable. They, they were in trouble. They were in a bad position. They'd been dealt a bad hand. They were in debt. And, Hornsby basically says, it's their fault. It's their fault they're in debt. They brought it amongst themselves, which is a very, in my opinion, arsehole-ish view to take on, poor people and people who've in bad financial situations. I think that's just a very elitist, kind of smug arsehole view to take. And Hornsby's a piece of shit. I don't like that way of thinking personally. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but I don't like blaming poor people for being poor. I don't like blaming people who are in debt for being in debt. I don't think that's very fair. Yes, some people make stupid life decisions and whatever, but I still think it's quite unfair to just be like, it's their fault. It's their fault. They're in debt. Fuck them. I think that's a very cruel and selfish viewpoint, really. And Hornsby's a fucking piece of shit. I know I've said that twice, but he is a piece of shit. But I really like him though. I mean, I don't like him, but I like him as a villain. Him and Sebastian are very good villains in my opinion. I think obviously Carol is kind of shocked by hearing this, but Carol is very clever. She's good at reading the room, and instead of saying, you're disgusting, Hornsby, how can you think that? Because she doesn't say that because she knows that's not going to get her anywhere, right? So instead of confronting Hornsby and saying that, she's like, oh yeah, I understand, just smiles and nods politely and pretends to be this meek lady, and basically, pretends to see things from his point of view because she knows that will get her closer to him. And then Hornsby comes out and says like, oh, I'm so glad we share the same opinion, and we can talk about these things. And Carol knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing here. She's being clever. I think the stupid move, would be to get offended and to have a go at him. And she knows, even if she is feeling that way, she knows just to not say anything and just play it cool with Hornsby. And this could be interesting to see, what she does from this point onwards, because I think maybe Carol might be the one to take him out, because she is, she's the one who's able to get closest to him at the moment. So that's about it for episode 14. I think this is another really, really good episode. I think it ties up things nicely from the episode 13 from the Riverbend. I like, what they've done with Negan. I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that. And all in all, I thought these 2 episodes were really good. Really enjoyed them. Really good episodes. Some of my favourite of the season. And yeah, good stuff. And like I said at the start of the video, sorry this is so late. Please let me know your thoughts below. If you can even remember these episodes, because I know it's been weeks since you've probably seen these. But let me know your thoughts below anyway. And I'll see you soon for episode 15 and 16 review. They will be out very, very soon after this video is up. So once again, thank you for all your support, and I'll see you all soon. Take care. Goodbye.